Mr. Edwards, it occurred to me that as we were having that discussion about timely and targeted, we actually had a circumstance in my district where a road was deemed to be too shovel-ready to participate in the stimulus program. It had actually, part of a phase had started and was partially funded, and for that reason, additional phases were not allowed to be funded with stimulus money. So it goes back to my point originally about the difficulty of the government operating efficiently. Mr. Edwards, earlier today, the Chairman mentioned, and several folks on the panel and up here have talked about the states lacking the fiscal ability, the financial ability right now to sort of get involved heavily in infrastructure. I think we've failed to take it to the next step of the analysis, and admit that we don't have the money either. And that what you've described today, which is something more along the lines of a privatized system, holds some appeal. It sounds like maybe the European, Asian countries have been driven to that type of model out of a similar type of necessity, and as a result, they have a system that seems to be beating us at various different levels. So I ask you, sir, if we wanted to explore that possibility in this country of moving towards more private funding of infrastructure, getting down to brass tacks, what would this Federal Government need to do, and how much would it cost?
It's mainly the states, I think was mentioned, are in substantially different positions to bring more private sector funding in. I think something like about 30 of the 50 states have PPP laws on the books. Again, Virginia the most advanced. I'd encourage the states to look, at what Virginia has done. I think with the passage of federal transportation bills, we need to sort of look at evening the playing field between public and private. One of the big advantages of public infrastructure is that it's tax-free finance. Municipal bonds are federally tax-free. That puts the private sector at a disadvantage automatically. Congress partly takes partly a response to that with so-called private activity bonds. There's a certain amount of bonds that can be used, that states can use for private projects which are tax-free. I'd look into that and expanding or extending that. That seems reasonable to me. I mean, ultimately, I would eliminate the tax-free nature of muni bonds because I think it does unfairly favor the public over private sector. So, for example, when Intel Corporation builds a new factory, they got to use taxable finance. When a local government builds, a new courthouse, they use tax-free. That seems unfair to me. So, I think that the Federal Government can do a lot to encourage the PPP movement in the state governments, but it's mainly the state governments.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.